Another welcome to Prime Sports with me, Razak Musbau, and the Black Stars have arrived in Kumasi ahead of their Total Energies African Cup of Nations qualifier against Angola on Thursday. The players, technical team and official on Thursday. And you can see this is the squad. Goalkeepers Lawrence Atizigi is in camp. Likewise, Abdul Manaf Nuruddin, Joseph Wallacott, whom we understand have picked up an injury, and of course we'll get some update from the training there in Kumasi. And of course the defenders, Tariq Lamptey, he's been replaced by a player, and we'll get that shortly for you because he's picked up an injury and is unavailable for the duty against Angola. Dennis Adoy is also in there with the team. Gideon Mensah, Patrick Pozo, Daniel Amata, Joseph Aidu, Mohamed Salisu, and Alexander Jiku are all in camp at the moment in Kumasi. And in midfield, of course, Thomas Partey is also in there with the team. Likewise, Mohamed Kudu is also in there with the team. Edmond Ado is in there. And of course, you also have a few other players. Majida Shimero is also in there in the squad. But of course, so you can see that Abdul Salih Samed is yet to report to camp, we understand, but likely to join the team latest by tomorrow, Wednesday, for the final preparation ahead of that game against Angola on Thursday. Edmond Ado is in camp with the team at the moment at in Kumasi. And of course, for the wingers, Jordan Ayew is also in camp. Osman Bukhari, we understand, is also in camp. Joseph Pinto is there. Kamaldeen Suleiman is also in there. And Ransford Yeboah is also with the team at the in Kumasi. Over the, of course, the strikers, just take a look at the strikers. Andre Dede Ayew is in there alongside Mohamed Kudus, Kamal Soa of Club Brugge, and of course, Inaki Williams is also in there with the team, along with Antoine Semenyo, all there with the team. Now, let's get to Kumasi and speak to my colleague, Fifi Manfred, with our sister station Insura FM and Love FM, and he's been monitoring the team's arrival and also the team's training session, which took place at the Barbara Sports Stadium this evening. We understand the team will again train tomorrow, and there'll also be a press conference ahead of that game on Thursday against Angola. Fifi, if you can hear me, good to have you. Bring us up to speed. How were the Black Star players received upon the arrival? And also bring us up to speed on the training session that we understand took place this evening.
Thank you very much, Musbau. Good evening to everybody watching us. So the Black Stars, they touched down here in Kumasi earlier in the afternoon, and they were received amidst pop and pageantry in Kumasi at the Kumasi International Airport, like you rightly said earlier. Almost everybody here in Kumasi thronged, a lot of the people thronged to the airport to try and catch a glimpse of the Black Stars there. And everybody seems to be happy to have had the Black Stars here in Kumasi. Captain Andre Dede Ayew was literally mobbed when he was seen at the airport earlier in the day. So it's an exciting time here in Kumasi. I mean, it had rained earlier, but still people were there at the.
We will try and reconnect to Fifi Manfred of our sister station Insura FM, bringing us up to speed. Fifi, you're back. Tell us, you were speaking, telling us how Captain Andre Dede Ayew was mobbed at the airport.
Yes. So Andre Dede Ayew was mobbed at the airport. There were a lot of fans. I mean, like you already know, anytime he comes to Kumasi, almost every person here in Kumasi, every sports fanatic loves to see him. And what I think we need to say is that the Black Stars is for the people of Ghana. And funny enough, regardless of how bad it gets, how not so good it gets, people love the Black Stars. They want to see them. They want to connect with them. And that's exactly what I picked this afternoon when the Black Stars did touch down at the Kumasi airport. And it was like that. A lot of them did follow the team to their team hotel. At the Lancaster Hotel, they were in front of the hotel. They sang. They waited for the team to prepare, rest, and come out for their training session, which was around 4 p.m. Ghana time. It was also an exciting one because there were a lot of them who followed the team bus from the Lancaster Hotel. If you're looking at the distance between the Lancaster Hotel and Barbara Stadium, it's quite far. People follow through the main streets of Kumasi to the Barbara Stadium. And one of the names that seems to be picking up, I think the GF have done a very good job in using Mohamed Salisu to promote the game, because he is somebody that has lived a part of his life in Abuabo here in Kumasi. So a lot of the people from Abuabo did follow the bus chanting the name of Mohamed Salisu, and they, of course, they would want to see him in action against Angola on Thursday. So generally, I mean, like you say, no matter how not so good it gets, people love the Black Stars, and Kumasi definitely has not failed to deliver as it stands now for the Black Stars.
I mean, Fifi, of course, we understand the team did train somewhere some 30 minutes past 5. Can you bring us up to speed on the training that you monitored, what exactly happened, and has it ended?
Yes, so the Black Stars did train, like you said, at the Barbara Stadium. It was just a little shake-up, not proper tactical work, just shake-up just to players to stay fit, not so much to do. Then after that, there was just the team playing a 7-a-side game between themselves. So yes, it has ended. It was largely a shake-up between the two sides of the team, and also to get the fans to see their players. So it was a good one. I mean, Coach Chris Hughton himself was there to oversee the training session. Masoud Didi Dramani was in there to also see the team and then get a part of the team to work on the shake-ups as well. So it was generally a very good one. It was in this training session that goalkeeper Jojo Olako did pick up some injury, but then I can confirm to every Ghanaian here on Joy News that Jojo Olako is fine. Nothing.
What kind of injury? What kind of injury really did he pick up? What happened at the training for him to pick up that injury?
So Jojo did actually crash into the post mid-dive whilst the games was ongoing. So, but after that, he has been assessed by the team medics and everything. He has been given a thumbs up. Everything is fine. I can confirm that here to our viewers that Jojo Olako is good.
Interesting. And Fifi, we understand, of course, there was a replacement for Tariq Lamptey who could not join the team because of his injury. Bring us up to speed on the player that replaced him from FC Cologne in the German Bundesliga.
Yeah, so Kingsley Schindler is a German-born Ghanaian. He has Ghanaian descent. I think he's a player that has been scouted since 2017 under Coach Kwesi Appiah. I mean, regardless of what you have to say about Coach Kwesi Appiah, you would have to give him props for the work he did in terms of bringing some very young players into the Black Stars. And this is one of the players that he did scout in 2017 when he was playing the German Bundesliga too. He had scored about 12 goals that season for them, and he had played very well. I mean, interestingly, he has played in midfield and has also played in defense. He's more like a utility player. He coming in to replace the injured Tariq Lamptey does add a lot to us, and he has experience now in the German Bundesliga for FC Cologne. So Schindler is a very good player. He's not going to give us the progressive carries that Tariq Lamptey will give us from right back, but he's a solid rock at the back. He adds a little bit more. He's more dynamic at the back. He's very difficult to beat 1v1, much more aggressive than Tariq Lamptey. The only difference is that Tariq Lamptey is much more explosive. He's much more progressive. He likes those penetrative runs and balls up top. So that's just the difference between. And I think it's a good chance for the 29-year-old German-born Ghanaian and Kingsley Schindler. It's a good chance for us to see him. And he wanted to play at the World Cup with Ghana, but then that didn't come to fruition. It's a good chance for him to don the Ghana jersey and see what he has for us.
Well, Fifi, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll definitely come back to you tomorrow for more update on the Black Stars. That's Fifi Manfred with sister station Share FM all the way in Kumasi, bringing us up to speed on the Black Stars arrival and training at the Rara Sports Stadium. Let's get to Dubai now and connect with Scott Gillen. And of course, he has been, monitoring the numbers, the performance of the Black Star players. Some key players in the Black Stars team, of course, and he's also with Afro Stars. Scott, good to have you, and thank you very much for joining us on Joy News all the way in Ghana here. I mean, just bring us up to speed on your impression about the Black Star squad when you first heard of its announcement.
Good evening, Musbau. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on. My initial impressions of the Black Star squad were pretty positive, actually. It looked like quite a balanced group. They had a broad range of skill sets. They seemed to have covered off the various sort of positions that had previously potentially looked a bit weaker. I also thought that it was positive to see the return of guys like Joseph Pansel into the squad with the performances that they'd had this season. I think he was unfortunate to miss out on the World Cup. So broadly speaking, I thought it was one of the better Ghana squads we've seen for a long time, actually. I thought the World Cup squad was one of the best squads we've seen in the last 5 years, and I think this squad is considerably better than that in terms of the balance of the skill sets, in terms of the sort of variety of skills that are available to Hughton, and the tactical kind of versatility and and variability that gives him from obviously within matches and hopefully from game to game, given one match is away and one match is home, and the constraints are likely to be quite different from game to game.
I mean, Scott, just tell me the players you identify as key players in the Black Star squad and why you identify them as such.
I think Mohamed Salisu, obviously, Fifi spoke about him earlier. I think he's Ghana's best centre back. I think he's got a lot of potential to be a really, really important player for them for a number of years. His physicality, his quality in possession, his technical ability overall, and also his defensive awareness and versatility, I think make him very, very important and allow Ghana to play different ways, but also allow them to crucially be able to kind of build from the back if they want to. I think Thomas Partey obviously remains a key player. We understand he's been joined by one of the Arsenal physios, presumably to make sure he's well looked after in his time in Ghana and make sure that he can return to Arsenal fully fit. So hopefully that plays into Ghana's hands as well. Mohamed Kudus, of course, also a key player in terms of his technical quality, his ability to move the ball through the thirds and also be a presence in the final third, which he's shown to great extent for Ajax this season. And then up top, it's kind of more unpredictable, isn't it? Because obviously Andre Ayew has years of being an important player for Ghana, scoring lots of goals. Inaki Williams is a recent addition, and I think in Inaki Williams, Joseph Pantsil, and Kamaldeen Sulemana, they've got three guys who can potentially carry on and take on Andre Ayew's kind of mantle to a degree and also complement him. But there's not a huge amount of chemistry there at the moment, and it's been interesting to see how they all gel together over the course of not just this window, but moving forwards, hopefully.
I mean, Scott, let's talk about the new addition, Schindler, who is replacing Tariq Lamptey, plays in the German Bundesliga. You've been paying close attention to him and his numbers. So what do you have to share with us?
Well, he's a really interesting player because he's worn many hats. As Fifi mentioned, he's kind of played across the right-hand side of the pitch. He's played as a right winger, he's played as a right back, he's played as a right wing back in a back 3/back 5. He's also played on the left wing, he's played centre midfield, he's played left back. So his numbers from season to season change in comparison to his peers quite considerably, because you compare him in one season, you compare him to wingers, in another season you compare him to fullbacks. But in principle, the things that kind of stand out consistently are his progressive receiving ability. He's a very intelligent player. He's someone who clearly understands how kind of spaces appear and materialise on the football pitch and how they're created, and he's good at finding those spaces to receive the ball in. And he's a player who likes to link quickly. He's not particularly a sort of high quality in really tight spaces. He looks better when he's in more open spaces, but when he receives in tight spaces, he likes to link quickly with teammates with 1 and 2 touches, which I think bodes well for Ghana. I think it's a skill set that they need. He's got fairly good physical tools. He's powerful when he's dribbling. He's good at holding off opponents. He's good at using his body in that way as well. So that kind of stands out occasionally in terms of his dribble volumes. Again, his willingness to receive the ball progressively. He's willing to be physical with defenders and hold them off. And when he is given the freedom to be more of a presence in the attacking third, we see his sort of crossing volume can get particularly high, and his dribbles and pass into the penalty area can also be quite high volume. So these are things that when you give him the freedom to be a presence in the final third and an offensive presence in the final third, he can certainly contribute in those ways. As Fifi said, he's not Tariq Lamptey. He's not got that initial explosiveness of Lamptey. He's not got the elusiveness as a dribbler, the penetrative ability as a dribbler. But he can certainly dribble in space powerfully. He can exploit space if it's there to be exploited. And I think that the other thing that stands out on a consistent basis wherever he plays is his defensive volume. And I think that's probably why we've seen him used as a right wing back and a right back, is that he's a high volume defender. And I think his intelligence that I spoke about earlier in terms of understanding how space appears and materialises on a football pitch translates to his defending as well, because he clearly understands the principles that underpin all defensive schemes in terms of compactness, in terms of supporting his teammates. And that translates kind of wherever he plays. So I think he's going to be a really interesting inclusion in the squad. I think he's a valuable skill set with no Lamptey. They need someone who can be that kind of field stretching right back, because that's not really something that Dennis Odoi has in his locker. So I think it's an addition that I think points to the GFA and Chris Hughton looking at profiles and identifying specific profiles. And I think he's been identified in that way. And I think that's a real positive moving forward.
I mean, Scott, let's just wrap up with Jordan Ayew. His role has become quite a controversy. Of course, there are calls on him to try and find the back of the net. He's not doing exactly that, but he continues to be an integral part of every squad, regardless of the coach that comes in, Otoado, Milovan, and now Chris Hughton, and he's still been regarded as an integral part of the team. Let's talk about the kind of role that Jordan Ayew has metamorphosed into now, and also a bit about Mohamed Kudus and whether you think he should be deployed in an attacking role, which almost looks like he's going to be deployed based on how he's been, categorized, or whether he should rather sit in midfield like sometimes is deployed at Ajax.
So on Jordan, I think his role for Crystal Palace, he's basically a winger. Asked to work very, very hard defensively in a similar way to the way we've seen Schindler play, actually, when he's been used as a winger. Gets up and down, supports his fullback well. And the other thing that Jordan Ayew is good at, he's another one who's a good finder of space. He's a progressive receiver. He's another one who's very good, and in fact, I'd argue he's better than Schindler at receiving the ball under pressure. He can retain possession, he can link play, he can hold play up, and then he can link under pressure. And I think that's a skill set that Ghana particularly needed in the World Cup. I think it'd be fair to say they needed wide players who were defensively smart. They hadn't had long to work on a defensive system, so they needed guys who just understood intrinsically the types of defensive systems that they were going to be asked to play. And also players that when opponents pressed them, they were able to go direct to them and they were able to hold the ball and flick the ball on and link with teammates. Things that Jordan hasn't been good at in the Premier League is creating chances. He hasn't been particularly good at breaking through as a dribbler and penetrating as a dribbler, and he's obviously not been good at scoring goals. And that's something that I think you have to be cognizant of when you're picking him, that he hasn't shown those skill sets to a substantial degree in the Premier League. Partly it's role orientated because of what he's asked to do, but partly it is also just who he is as a player at this point. And I think expecting him to be a great goal scorer for Ghana is perhaps now an unfair expectation on him, and he should be looked at as someone who's defensively very savvy, who can hold the ball and gives you options in attack and answers to problems that defences might ask of you. But he's not someone who you're going to be relying on to score goals in the way that his brother has been relied on. And I think Ghana will be expecting to rely on Inaki Williams and obviously Mohamed Kudus. And as far as Kudus' role, I think his role should be flexible. I think Chris Hughton sort of talked about how he wanted the team to be balanced, and that how he used Kudus was going to depend on how he saw the balance of the team needed to be. And these are things that all football coaches think about in every single game. I think when you're playing in the first game at home against Angola, you may be comfortable with your team having a more offensive balance to it. And you may think you can play Kudus sort of nominally in midfield, but with considerable amount of freedom to push on, because you're anticipating that Angola might come to Ghana and look for a draw, given the teams they're tied on 4 points. Ghana going to Angola next. Angola might fancy trying to go to Angola with parity in place and try and play for a draw. In that situation, maybe you want Kudus to be deeper nominally, so he can create and penetrate from deeper areas, but also knowing the way that your team's going to be set up, he's going to naturally be able to attack. But then when you go to Angola, you might expect Angola to be more offensive, and in that way, then Kudus would have, on this positional formation, might be as a number 10 or kind of coming in off the right, or even as a number 9, because the balance of your team changes and you want to have more defensive players in the team. So,
well, interesting.
I think for me, it's all about being flexible with him, because he's got the versatility. So use him as such.
We'll see how Chris will deploy him there. Scott, thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it. Definitely reconnect to you before the game against Angola, and even after that. But we have to you on Prime Sports tonight. Do head to myjoyonline.com/sport for more. My name is Razak Musbau, and thank you for being a part of this.